Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Hello, my name is Patrick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Valoterna. We are specialized in using untreated natural color gemstones for asset purposes on the one hand and on the other side for jewelry.
Awesome. So I'm just curious about your story. Like, what kind of inspired you to get into this? Like, were you in this space before and kind of wanted to roll out your own business? Or I'm curious more about your background.
Well, it was more or less a coincidence, lucky coincidence. Originally, I come from the classic retail sector, and after that, I did private equity. And suddenly there was a family who approached me and asked, is there any field where we can invest and what can we do to save money for the next generation? Is there anything you could recommend? And I was lucky because I was in contact with a quite big gem dealer at this time. So gemstones made it into my life. And for meanwhile, nearly 14 years, I'm doing in gemstones.
Awesome. So I'm just curious more if you can talk about when a client or customer comes to you, what does that process look like? Like, how do you exactly work with somebody and help them with gemstones?
Yeah, normally, especially in Europe, our company is located in Austria. Gemstones disappeared from the mind of people approximately with the middle or end of the Second World War. Since then, gemstones have always been a so-called safe haven, preserve value and generational wealth. During the Second World War or after the Second World War, gemstones totally disappeared from the mindset of people because they knew about gold, real estate, other assets, private equity, and so on. And gemstones have always been a huge thing, especially in Asia. And since then, gemstones had been a safe haven for people in Asia. And during the last economic crisis in 2008, gemstones came into the mind of people in Europe because gemstones, likewise gold, are a very traditional, a very old asset. It's the oldest asset in the world and still in use. And people, when they come to us, they have three things why they come to us. First of all, they want to preserve fortune and do so-called generational wealth to preserve the money and the fortune for the next generation. The second thing is people want to pass on individual physical assets to the next generation. Yeah? For example, when your daughter gets married, you have something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. So why not a blue sapphire, for example? And when you think about the engagement ring of Lady Diana, it was a blue sapphire. And the blue sapphire has always been the classic gemstone for people as an engagement ring years and decades before the diamond entered the market. And the third thing is, of course, people want to have unique jewelry. So they need gemstones set into an individual ring, necklace, earrings, bracelets, whatever. And this is what we do.
Awesome. So in terms of an investment, right, like as you said, it's a great investment. How much does somebody need to have, at a minimum, if you can even say in pounds, or euro, to invest and for it to make sense? Because obviously there's a certain amount that people have. It's not for everybody that can just invest in gemstones. So what does that look like?
In fact, what you just said is a very common myth. Because when you think about gold, when you think about the smallest gold coin or the smallest thing you can invest in gold, it's 1 gram. Yeah? And when you think about 1 ounce of gold, it's 31 grams. Approximately, it's now $3,000. Of course, it's a lot of money, but on the other hand, it's not that much to preserve fortune. Yeah? And when you think about gemstones, we only do the very narrow part, the very small part of the so-called untreated gemstone. So it's the highest quality available. It's the most stable part of the gemstones in the world. Yeah, we are specialized in rubies, emeralds, sapphires, alexandrite spinels, and so on. So the color gemstone part. The cheapest gemstone starts with 200 euros with us. The most expensive one we have on stock is slightly below $1 million. So this is the range what we can offer. And so you can think about even when, for example, a child is born or you have the baptism christening, Christianing, it's called, right, in English. Instead of gold or a long side of gold, a small gemstone in a certain color is always a good present, and it doesn't lose the value. There are only three things in history that haven't lost their value to zero. It's gold, it's gemstone, and it's art.
That's awesome. And I guess, like, just because you said, right, that there is this myth and misconception. So how do you kind of go about getting this message out there? Like, do you post a lot of content? Do you run ads? Do you speak on panels? Or, like, what does that look like for you to really, like, share this with people who have this misconception about gemstones?
Everything you said. First of all, of course, advertising, but we don't like spending money on advertising because you don't reach your target group in a very appropriate way, since gemstones are a niche market. Of course, word of mouth. We are successful because people talk about us and they know what kind of service we offer and what we can offer to the people. Trust is a very important part, quality and transparency. Those are the three core values of our company. Whatever question you have concerning gemstones, you can ask us. There is no need to buy with us. We love talking about gemstones. We do a lot of videos. We can answer any question concerning gemstones. And this is something that is very special because when you think about gemstones, they have this exclusive touch, but exclusivity doesn't mean that you need to spend a fortune on a gemstone.
And
so
then,
the entry level, the barrier of entry is very low.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm curious too, because like for gold and, things like that, people are always looking to like touch and feel it and see kind of what that looks like. So do you attend, go to different events or pop-ups, or like, what does that look like just to give people the ability to actually touch and view the product in person?
In fact, most of our clients, they want to meet us in a private surrounding. Yes, it's not something you can do in a restaurant. Of course, we do this as well, but normally people want to have private venues. When we do networking is a very big part of our job. And when you think about tomorrow, there is a big event in Vienna with luxury cars. So when you go to events with luxury cars, with arts, gemstones, gold, there's always place to talk about your field of business. And the fun fact is, since you're a unicorn with gemstones, nobody does this. In fact, there are 3 to 4 big dealers in the German-speaking part of Europe who do gemstones at the level we do. This is very funny because people do have their thoughts and myths concerning gemstones, and everyone has a certain opinion on gemstones. So they want to talk, they want to see something, we show them, and they can have pictures, they can have videos, we can have private appointments, they can touch and feel the gemstones. And when people have the opportunity to have some thousand or millions in their hand to see, okay, good, this is the value of a house, for example, of a villa, and you can place it in your palm, this is very unique.
No, for sure. I think that people definitely want to touch and feel it. And I guess in terms of your business, right, are most of your clients in Europe? Do you sell here in the US as well? Like, what does that breakdown kind of?
United States are now hard due to the tariffs, but this is another story.
Yeah.
At the moment,
Before that,
we will hope.
Before that.
No, in fact, Austria, Europe, Switzerland, Italy, some other parts of Europe, something in Asia, Middle East, United States, not yet. Would be great.
So how do you kind of, like, when you're selling to other countries, is it people that just find you online, or like, what does that process look like to actually target that audience? Because, obviously, like locally in Austria, Germany, etc., you can be going to events, meeting people in person, but do people find you online, let's just like in Asia or like,
I think especially when we think about export markets, word of mouth is the most important thing, because there is nothing of higher trust than when people talk about you. There is no comparison when you think about PR or when you think about advertising. Word of mouth is the most efficient nowadays. Careful with this term, but it's the most efficient way to target people. And when we make people talk about us in a positive way because they have got good experience with us, this is the most important thing.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. It's like you can run ads, you can do all these things, but nothing beats word of mouth and referral and people talking about you. So I guess in terms of your goals, right? Like obviously we're just starting Q2 here of 2025. So for the rest of this year, what are some of your biggest goals and objectives for the business?
We don't have any quantitative goals because they come, and you can, in fact, in times like this, you cannot do a lot to reach quantitative goals. You can do a lot to reach qualitative goals, and this is to get better each and every day, because there is so important to improve. If you don't improve, you start being good, and this is a very, very important claim for me. It's like a motto for me, and I don't accept a no-go. So if somebody tells me you won't do this or you won't be able to do this, it's more a very high motivation for me, and especially for my business partner Maria, to reach this goal. So this is in fact something that we are lucky with. Quantitative goals, very hard to determine.
That's awesome. So obviously you've been doing this for some time. So if you could go back in time to before you started this business, what is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
If I could turn back time for 10 years, I would have taken all the money I could get to buy rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. Because it sounds crazy, but the best day to buy a gemstone is yesterday, because tomorrow it will be more expensive. Since the sources are declining, the quality is going worse each and every day, because the amount of gemstones that come rough to the earth, that can be mined, they are declining. And when you think about, for example, just to get an indication, 26,000 kilograms in a year in the US, right? So 50,000 pounds
Right.
of diamonds are mined each and every year. And in comparison, only 1,000 pounds of ruby are mined each and every year. So the ruby is way scarcer than diamond. The top quality is even less. I mean, think about 5 to 10 kilograms of top quality rubies entering the market each and every year. And from those small amount, only 1 to 3% are untreated natural color. So this is the way. If I had been able to invest more money 10 years ago, I would be a very lucky man.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good advice. So yeah, definitely, buy more gemstones for sure is definitely good advice for the audience. And if somebody watching this was interested and if they wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website, social media? I guess best ways to get.
Definitely would be my pleasure. You need it now, or
yeah. If you can just share like the website, that way it's like if somebody watching this or like just like your social media, if you could just say it like verbally.
It's pretty easy. It's valoterna.com, VALOTERNA, Valoterna, like eternal value. It's from Latin.
Awesome.
That's what the gemstone is.
Perfect. Well, Patrick, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. Always a pleasure. Have a good one. Bye-bye.